guys, welcome back to Analyzing Horror. My name's Lauren, and today we're going to be talking about the ultimate werewolf classic, An American Werewolf in London. So David and Jack, two American college students, are backpacking across Britain when a large wolf attacks them in the English countryside. David survives with a bite wound, but Jack is unfortunately brutally slain. While recovering in hospital, David is plagued with nightmares of his mutilated friend, who warns him that he's become a werewolf and he will turn at the next full moon. Thinking he's just gone crazy, David ignores these warning signs. However, the inevitable full moon proves these warnings to be correct, and a werewolf is set on a murderous rampage across London. So like so many 80s horror movies, I personally think that this is just an absolute classic and honestly a masterpiece of a movie, and it's my favorite werewolf movie of all time. I love it so much. I love the performances and characters, I love the storyline, I love the humor, I love the look of the werewolf, and the practical effects. Oh my god, I love the practical effects in this movie. It's incredible. So fair warning, I'm going to be talking about the storyline and some spoilers, so if you haven't seen the movie yet, make sure to pause, go watch the movie, and come back afterwards. Alright, so let's get into my thoughts on American Werewolf in London. I'd like to start off by talking about performances and some of my favorite characters. So first off, you probably could guess if you watched my last video, but I absolutely love the friendship between David and Jack. Like, there's just something about male friendships that set my heart on fire. I freaking love it so much, and it just makes me so happy. I just love their banter between each other and like the rapport as a whole. It just feels really genuine, and it feels like they have known each other for a long time, and they almost feel like real people, if that makes sense. And I just really, really love the friendship dynamic. And also individually, I love David Naughton as David. I thought he was really charismatic and charming, even during the stressful scenes. And he was very, very likable, and I instantly loved his character. I also thought Griffin Dunne did a great job as Jack, both alive and undead. I thought that was one of the funnest parts about his character, and I just really loved, like, he was also really charming, and I just really loved how he brought this ease to the character as a whole, and he just did a really great job. I also really liked Jenny Agutter as Alex. I really enjoyed her character. I thought she was really charming as well, and I also really liked how much she liked David, because I also liked David, so it was really easy to like her character because of that. Okay, so let's get into the storyline. I wanted to first talk about the opening scene. I really, really loved that opening scene and how the movie just drops you straight into the situation. Like, you're immediately on the backpack journey with David and Jack, and I just really, really loved that. I also really loved all of the English landscape, countryside scenes that you get. It's really, really beautiful. So coupling that with the beautiful English landscapes and hearing the banter between these two friends as they make their way to the Slaughtered Lamb pub, I just really, really love that. Speaking of the Slaughtered Lamb pub, I really loved the sign design. I thought that looked really cool, especially for a werewolf movie, and I just really, really loved that. I also thought it was funny how Jack was like, where is the lamb? Because that's a really good question. Where is the lamb? Also, the interior set design, I thought that was really well done with the pub. It looked really cozy and inviting, despite the locals' reaction to David and Jack walking in. By the way, forget the werewolf. That is my nightmare. Like, walking into an establishment and it all going quiet and you getting stared at. Oh my god, it sends so much anxiety my way. Like, I cringed so hard during that entire scene. Like, I just feel so bad for David and Jack. Like, I can't imagine. I also really loved the attack scene. I liked how atmospheric it was with all of the fog, and it was really dark, and you just feel really exposed alongside these characters. I also really loved how you hear the werewolf before you see it. I thought that added to the stress levels of the scene, and it just worked really, really well. And then poor Jack after the attack, like, the practical effects and gore were done really well. Like, the poor man, but it looked really cool. I also loved the first time that Jack reveals himself to David as the undead. I really loved how the first thing that he said to David was, "Can I have a piece of your toast?" I just loved how, like, laid back he was, like, as a character. Like, he just seemed so blasé about it. It's like, yeah, I'm dead. I'm undead. You're a werewolf. You gotta handle the situation now. So get on it. I also really loved how he just, like, reached for the piece of toast, dipped it in his egg, and, like, ate it. Like, do undead people need to eat? That's a really good question. I also really loved the second time that Jack reveals himself to David, this time at Nurse Alex's flat. I really liked how the movie used the mirror trope, like when you push on the mirror and then something is revealed behind you. I liked how that's how Jack was revealed to David, and like it made him scream, and I just really loved that scene. I also really love how David calls Jack a meatloaf. It's just such a great scene. And then the transformation scene. Oh my God, I love this transformation scene so much. It's my favorite werewolf transformation, like, of all time. I love how it comes out of nowhere, right? Like David's just reading a book and all of a sudden, like he's in extreme pain. He's ripping his clothes off, like he's covered in sweat, and then his body immediately starts to change. And I really loved how the movie takes its time with this scene. Like it really lingers on a lot of shots. Like there's a shot where you're just watching the hand grow and like the feet grow and the face is elongated. And I just really loved how like the movie just like lets you sit there in horror watching this like horrible thing happening. Like I can't imagine going through that. I think that's one of the reasons why I love werewolf movies so much, is because that just sounds horrible. Like imagine your body like twisting and contorting to become this like animalistic creature. Like that just sounds so horrific. And then we get the iconic underground scene. I think that and the transformation scene are my favorite scenes of this entire movie. I love the underground scene. Not only do I love it for like the suspense and just like the scary aspects of it all, but it has some beautiful camera work. And again, I really love how you hear the werewolf first before you see it, and that's enough to scare off the gentleman and try to like hustle out of there. And then the camera turns to this point of view shot where you're actually the werewolf, like the camera is the werewolf, and you're like kind of down on the ground and the camera's like moving a little bit as if you're walking on all fours. And then you get to see the gentleman through this point of view shot, and then it turns into a tracking shot where like the werewolf is advancing on the gentleman. And then the camera turns into a backwards tracking shot as the gentleman is running towards the camera, trying to run away from the werewolf. And I just thought that was really cool. I loved that about it. It's also an extremely claustrophobic scene. Like, where's this man gonna go? Like, it's really scary for me. I was terrified. And then we get to the escalator and we have this really great shot where we're looking down on the escalator and the gentleman had fallen on the escalator. And I really love how the werewolf comes down from the top of the screen towards the man. I just really loved how that was shot. And I think it's one of the first times that we get like almost a full view of the werewolf. And I just really loved that. I thought that was really cool. Hey guys, editing Lauren here. So I can't believe I did this, but I completely spaced and forgot about the zoo scene while filming. I didn't want you guys to think I just fully forgot about it, so I wanted to quickly put this in here of my favorite bits of that scene. So this scene is just absolutely hilarious. First off, I loved how comfortable David Naughton seemed to be running through a public park butt-ass naked. I love the part where he runs into an elderly woman and he just smiles and politely says, "Excuse me." Makes me laugh every time. And then the iconic balloon scene. I love how David was having that conversation with the boy from behind a bush. And again, managing to be polite and charming even while stealing balloons from a child. And then the classic line, "A naked American man stole my balloons." So great. It's definitely in my top favorite lines from this movie. Also, then David steals a woman's coat and is just patiently waiting in the queue as locals stare at his attire while waiting for the tube. So funny and so cringe. And I admire how David didn't even stress too hard. He was just doing his best in that situation. That's such a great scene. All right, thank you so much for being patient with me as I continue to learn. Now back to the video. I also loved the last time that Jack reveals himself to David in a smut theater of all places. I like how Jack introduces David to last night's victims and how all of them are trying to give David advice on how to handle the situation. And I just thought that was a really funny scene. And then the last 20 or 30 minutes of this movie is absolute chaos. Like, I love it so much. I love the scene where the police officer is investigating with inside the smut theater, and then you get your first full-on, full frontal view of the werewolf. And that is one of my favorite, I think it is my favorite shot of this entire movie. I love it so much. Like, there's just something about getting to see the werewolf full on front and center, and it just has its mouth covered in blood and it's hovering over a dead body. It just, there's something about it that makes me so happy. Like, I literally, every single time I watch this movie, I make this face. Yeah, I love this scene and that shot so much. Like I would frame it and put it on my wall. Actually, I probably should. And then the absolute chaos at Piccadilly Circus, where there's car accidents and the werewolves running around and attacking people. And I really loved that. I thought that the movie kind of held on to the werewolf aspect for a little bit, and then it just gives it all to you. Like, you're seeing the werewolf run around, it's biting people, it's just going absolute mental, and I really loved that. And then that bittersweet ending. Like, I have so many mixed emotions about that ending. Like, it's good. Like, we saved London. There's no more werewolf. There's no more curse. Like, that's good. But also David. I liked David. I don't want him to go. It's just really bittersweet because I understand how else is a werewolf movie gonna end, right? And like, it makes sense. David himself doesn't even want to be a werewolf, so I get it. But at the same time, I like David. I don't want David to go away. I also loved how the movie like just is super final. Like, the police take out the werewolf turns into David, and then end credits. I just loved how it's like boom, boom, done. Speaking of end credits, I wanted to touch on real quick about how much I loved the soundtrack. I thought that it was really cool that almost every single song, if not every song, has the word moon in it. And I just love that because it's like, well, yeah, it's a werewolf movie. Like, why wouldn't we have songs that have moon in it? And they didn't have to do that, but they did it, and it added so much to my experience, and I just love it so much. So for example, the end credits song is Blue Moon by the Marshalls, and it's honestly been stuck in my head since my rewatch, and I just really love it. And every time I hear that song, I think about American Werewolf in London, and I love it so much. It adds so much to the experience. All right, so those are my thoughts on American Werewolf in London. Like I said earlier, it's a masterpiece and a classic in my eyes. My absolute favorite werewolf movie of all time, and favorite werewolf transformation scene. Like, I love it. I love the look of the werewolf. I love everything about it. So what did you think about it? Did you have a favorite character, a favorite scene? Is this your favorite werewolf transformation? Or do you have one that you like more? Let me know in the comments. And make sure to like and subscribe so Black Phillip knows you'd like to live deliciously. Thanks so much for watching, guys, and I'll see you again very soon in the next video. Bye!